There is a moment, and I believe you know exactly which moment I am describing. When you sit down and you look at everything you have been trying to build, and you ask yourself a question that frightens you. Then, is any of this actually working? Not because you are weak, not because you have given up, but because you are tired in a way that sleep does not fix. You are tired in the soul. Standing, I have been in that room. I know what that silence sounds like. And I want to tell you something today that I wish someone had walked through the door and told me. Not when things were going well, not when the momentum was building, but on one of those ordinary, grinding, discouraging days when I had nothing left. What I am about to share with you is not a technique. It is not a trick. It is an end revelation about the nature of discipline itself. One that changed the entire architecture of how I lived my life. Stay with me to the end. Because the part that matters most, standing, is not what you think it is. And I promise you, if you hear it clearly, you will never look at your hard days the same way again. I want to begin with an honest confession. There was a season in my life. I was still a young man, still finding my footing, when I believed, truly believed, that discipline was something you felt. I thought that the great men and women of history, the ones who built things that lasted, the ones who showed up every single day without fail, I thought they woke up wanting to do it. I thought they had some internal fire that I simply had not yet discovered in myself. So I waited for the fire. And while I waited, the days passed, the weeks passed, and the life I had imagined for myself stayed exactly where it was in my imagination. Here is what the feeling never told me it was lying. Motivation is a visitor. It comes when it pleases. It stays as long as it likes. And it leaves without saying goodbye. You cannot schedule it. You cannot demand it. And if you build your disciplines around waiting for it, you will spend your whole life rearranging your schedule around a guest who rarely shows up. I learned this the hard way, not from a book, from years of watching my own results, or rather, the absence of them. And one day, a man I admired said something to me that stopped me cold. "Stand in," he said, "the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do." I turned that over in my mind for a long time, because it is such a simple observation. And yet it contains everything. Reading 10 pages of a good book tonight, easy to do, but also easy not to do. Writing in your journal, easy to do, easy not to do. Going to bed 30 minutes earlier, easy to do. The devastatingly easy not to do. The actions that build a life are rarely dramatic. They are small. They are quiet. They are, almost without exception, easy to do. And that is precisely why most people never do them consistently. Because when something is easy to do, your mind whispers, "I can do that tomorrow." And tomorrow it whispers the same thing. This is where discipline begins. Not in the gym, not in the office, not in the early morning hours. It begins in the moment you recognize that easy to skip is the enemy wearing the mask of easy to do. Let me give you a definition, not the dictionary's definition, mine. Discipline is a decision made in advance of the moment that will test it. Read that again. A decision made in advance, not a feeling, not a surge of willpower, not a burst of inspiration. A decision, a quiet, deliberate, made before the alarm goes off, before the rain starts, before you are tired, before the excuses begin to sound reasonable. Here is why this distinction matters more than almost anything else I have ever taught. When you wake up on a hard morning, and hard mornings will come, they are as certain as winter. If you have not already decided what you will do, you will negotiate with yourself. And I want you to know something about that negotiation. You will lose it. every time, because the part of you that wants comfort is eloquent. It is persuasive. It has 1,000 good reasons. It will tell you that you are tired, that you deserve a rest. That one day off will not matter. And it is right about one thing: one day off does not matter. But the habit of negotiating matters enormously. Bargaining, because once you establish that your commitments are open to renegotiation, once you let yourself off the hook on Tuesday, Wednesday becomes easier to skip. Thursday becomes easier. Ding, and within a month you have not built a habit. You have built a pattern of abandonment. Discipline decided in advance looks like this. Before I go to bed tonight, I am going to decide what tomorrow looks like. Not in great detail. Not with a rigid, unforgiving schedule, but with a commitment. This is what I will do when I wake up. This is what I will do before I allow myself any comfort. Dinga. The decision is made when you are clear-headed, when you are rested, when you are thinking about the person you want the to become rather than the comfort you want right now. Ending, because when the alarm goes off at 5 in the morning, you are not going to be that clear-headed person. You are going to be a tired, warm, comfortable human being who would very much like to stay exactly where you are. And the only thing that saves you in that moment is a decision you made the night before. That is discipline. That is the whole secret. Not iron willpower, not superhuman motivation, or a decision made in advance, honored in the moment. Now I want to address something that I believe is quietly destroying the discipline of more people than almost any other single idea. The myth of the perfect day. You know this myth. You have lived inside it. It goes like this: I will be disciplined when conditions are right. When I am not so tired. When the project at work settles down. When the children are a little older. When I have more money, more space, more time. And so you wait for a day that is perfectly suited to your disciplines. A day with no interruptions, no fatigue, no competing demands. A day when the feeling shows up and stays all the way through. I have a question for you. How many of those days have you had? I will tell you what I have observed across decades of studying successful men and women, and what I have experienced in my own life. The perfect day is a fiction. It does not exist. And the people who wait for it are still waiting. But here is what does exist, and this is where the law of averages becomes your greatest ally. You do not need every day to be great. You need most days to be good. The law of averages is one of the most powerful forces in human life, and almost no one applies it to their personal disciplines. We apply it to sales. We know that if we make enough calls, enough of them will convert. We apply it to farming. We know that if we plant enough seeds, enough of them will grow. But we forget to apply it to ourselves. If you read 10 pages of a good book on most days, not every day, most days, you will read 15 to 20 books this year. If you exercise on most days, your body will transform over 12 months. If you work on your most important skill on most days, you will be unrecognizable to yourself in 3 years. Most days, not perfect days, not inspired days, most days. This means that a bad day, a day when you only did half of what you intended, a day when exhaustion won one small battle, is not a failure. It is a data point in an average that is still trending in your favor. What breaks the average? Not one bad day, consecutive bad days. The pattern of giving up. The habit of letting one skip day become 2, 2 become 5, and 5 become the new normal. So on the days when you have nothing left, I am not asking you for your best. I am asking you for something. Because something averaged over time is the raw material of everything. I want to tell you a parable. You may have heard versions of it before, but I want you to hear it today through the lens of discipline on a hard day. A sower went out to plant his seed. Some fell on the path, where the ground was packed and hard, and nothing grew. Some fell among the rocks, where the soil was thin and the seedlings came up quickly, but had no root. And when the sun beat down, they withered. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. And some fell on good soil and grew and multiplied. Now, I have thought about this parable for many years. And the question that always interests me most is not about the soil. It is about the sower. Did the sower stop planting because some seeds fell on bad ground? No, he kept walking. He kept planting. He did not stand at the edge of the rocky soil and say, I do not feel like planting today because last week's seeds did not grow. He planted anyway. Because he understood something that the discouraged person forgets. You cannot know in advance which soil is which. And here is what this means for you on the days when you are exhausted and questioning whether any of your effort is compounding into anything real. You are the sower, your disciplines, your reading, your exercise, your early mornings, your focused work, your quiet study. These are your seeds. And you cannot always see which day's planting will produce the harvest. The day you feel least like planting may be the day the seed falls on the best soil of your life. Wanting the conversation you have when you are tired may be the one that opens the door you have been knocking on for years. The chapter you read when you would rather sleep may contain the idea that reorganizes everything. You do not know. And because you do not know, you plant anyway. This is not blind optimism. This is the sower's wisdom. The understanding that the act of planting is within your control and the harvest is not. Your job is not to guarantee the outcome. Your job is to keep showing up with seeds in your hand. And on the days when you have nothing left, when the ground looks hard and the sky looks gray and you cannot remember the last time you saw a seedling, plant anyway. One seed, just one, because the sower who plants one seed on a hard day is still a sower. And the sower who stops planting has already decided his harvest. Most people, when they think about failure, imagine a dramatic collapse, a business that goes bankrupt overnight, a relationship that ends in a single terrible argument, a career destroyed by one catastrophic mistake. But that is not how failure actually works. That is not the formula. The formula for failure is much quieter, much more insidious, and much harder to see while it is happening. The formula for failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day, not catastrophic errors, not dramatic mistakes. Small ones, easy ones, the kind that feel harmless in the moment because individually they are harmless, skipping the reading tonight. That is a small error. It will not ruin your life, but repeat it for a year and you have read nothing. Skipping the exercise this morning, small error. Repeat it for 6 months and your body has changed in the wrong direction. Choosing the easier conversation instead of the honest one, small error. Repeat it for a decade and your relationships are built on a foundation of comfortable untruths. The formula for failure is not the big mistake. It is the small neglect compounded daily. And here is the mirror image, the formula for success. Among a few simple disciplines practiced every day, not heroic disciplines, not extraordinary disciplines, simple ones. The kind that are, as I said before, easy to do, read a little, standing, move a little, think a little, plan a little, connect with someone worth knowing, work a little harder on yourself than you do on your job. These are not secrets, and every person watching this has heard advice like before. The question is never what to do. The question is whether you will do it on the days when you do not feel like it. And that is precisely why we are here today. Because the gap between knowing and doing, that gap is where lives are lost. That gap is where potential goes to quietly expire. I want to close that gap for you, not with willpower, not with motivation, with understanding. Because when you truly understand something, not just intellectually, but in the marrow of your bones, you act differently. You choose differently, even on the hard days. Especially on the hard days. Here is a question I have asked audiences for many years, and I want to ask it to you now. How hard do you work at your job? Most people, if they are honest, work reasonably hard. They show up. They do what is required. They meet their deadlines. They fulfill their obligations. They do enough to keep their position secure. Now let me ask you a second question. How hard do you work on yourself? For most people, the honest answer to that second question is considerably less, and I understand why. The job has deadlines. The job has a manager. The job has consequences that arrive quickly and visibly when you fall short. If you do not do your work, someone notices. Someone says something. There is pressure, there is accountability, there is a paycheck on the line. But working on yourself, the consequences of neglect are slow. They are invisible for months, sometimes years. Nobody calls you into an office to say, you have not read a book in 3 months and your thinking is getting shallow. And nobody sends you a performance review that says, your failure to develop new skills has put your future at risk. The consequences come eventually. They always come. But by the time they arrive, they are large and heavy and very difficult to reverse. Here is what I have come to believe with absolute certainty. Your job gives you a living, and your self-development gives you a life. And you must have both. You must make a living. I understand that. I have been there. I know what it is to worry about the rent. But you must also simultaneously design a life. And the life is designed in the hours the job does not own. The early morning hour before the house wakes up. The 30 minutes at lunch that most people spend in distraction. The hour in the evening that most people surrender to entertainment. These are not small windows. Being compounded over a year, they are hundreds of hours. Compounded over a decade, they are the difference between the person you are and the person you were capable of becoming. They work hard at your job, of course. Give it your full effort and your full integrity. But never let the job consume the hours that belong to your growth. Because the job is someone else's dream, and you are here to build your own. Ending, if what I have shared with you so far, the decision made in advance, the law of averages, the parable of the sower, the formula for failure, if any of that has landed somewhere real inside you, then I want you to do something right now. Subscribing to this channel. Not because I am asking for a favor, but because what I have just given you is a fraction of what we explore here every week. The philosophy of personal responsibility, the discipline of daily growth, the architecture of a life built on purpose rather than accident. If this message is speaking to you, if you feel somewhere in your chest that this is exactly what you needed to hear today, then this is the right place for you. And I do not want you to miss what is coming next. Now, let us go deeper, because we have not yet arrived at the hardest part. And the hardest part is where the real revelation lies. I want to talk to you about the seasons. Not as a metaphor, as a law. The earth does not apologize for winter. The tree does not consider November a failure. The farmer does not look at the bare field in January and conclude that farming does not work. He knows, with the calm certainty of someone who has lived through many winters, that spring will come, that the ground is resting, not dying, that the cold is doing work that the warmth cannot do. And yet when winter comes to a human life, when the effort seems to produce nothing, Ding. When the days are gray and the results are invisible and the motivation has gone somewhere you cannot find it. Most people do not respond with the farmer's calm certainty. They panic. They quit. They decide that the absence of visible results means the absence of progress. And in doing so, they plant nothing in winter. They rest nothing in summer. They harvest nothing in autumn. Because they never learn to read the seasons of their own life. Here is what I have observed. Every person who has ever built something significant has passed through a winter. A period where the work continued but the results did not. A period that felt from the inside like failure, but was from the outside like preparation. The winter is not a mistake in the design. The winter is part of the design. Your discipline during winter is the most important discipline of your life. Not because it feels good. It does not feel good. Not because it produces visible results. It may not yet. But because it is during the winter that you discover whether your commitment is real or whether it was always contingent on the weather. The person who only plants in spring, only works in summer, only harvests in autumn, that person is at the mercy of the seasons, ending. But the person who tends the soil in winter, who uses the cold months to prepare, to study, to sharpen, to plan, that person is not at the mercy of anything. Ending. You may be in a winter right now. The results are not coming. The effort feels like it is disappearing into the ground without a trace. The people around you do not understand why you keep going. The tree does not stop being a tree in January. And you do not stop being a person of discipline because the season is hard. Spring is coming. It always does. And when it comes, the person who planted through the winter will be the one with the harvest. I want to speak plainly to you about something that most people are not willing to examine honestly. You are in large part the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not in terms of income alone, though that is true as well. In terms of your standards, your expectations, 10, tolerance for mediocrity, your belief about what is possible. If the 5 people closest to you do not read, you will find it harder to read. Not because they stop you, they may not say a word, but because the invisible standard of the group says a reading is not what people like us do. And that standard seeps into you whether you invite it or not. If the 5 people closest to you complain about their circumstances without taking action to change them, you will find yourself doing the same. Not because you are weak, because humans are social creatures and we unconsciously calibrate our behavior to the norm of our tribe. This is not a judgment of the people in your life. Many of them are good people, kind people. People who love you and wish you well. But wishing you well and pulling you upward are 2 different things. And you need both. Here is what I want you to consider. Your discipline does not exist in a vacuum. It is either supported or eroded by the environment you choose to inhabit. And the most powerful part of that environment is the people. Find one person who is doing what you want to do and study them. Read what they read. Ask what they asked. Go where they went. You do not need to abandon your current relationships, but you must add to them. You must deliberately seek out voices and presences that pull your standard upward. And if you cannot find such a person in your immediate life, find them in books. Find them in the recorded words of those who have lived and thought and built before you. The great thinkers of history are available to you for the price of a library card and the willingness to sit quietly and read. The people you spend time with in person, in your reading, in what you listen to, are shaping your discipline right now, whether you are conscious of it or not. Choose them accordingly. I have always admired the ant. not for its size, not for its strength, though for its size, the ant is among the strongest creatures on earth. I admire the ant for its philosophy. The ant never looks at the mountain of grain it must move and says, "This is too much, I cannot begin." The ant picks up one grain, carries it, sets it down, goes back, picks up another. The ant does not take days off because it does not feel motivated. The ant does not negotiate with itself about whether today is a good day to work. The ant simply works consistently, persistently, without drama and without complaint. And here is what the ant understands that most humans have forgotten: enough small things done consistently become large things. The anthill is not built in a day. The anthill is built one grain at a time over a long season by creatures who never once questioned whether the effort was worth it. Now, I am not suggesting you live like an insect. I am suggesting you borrow the ant's philosophy. The philosophy that says, Sadai will do what I can do today with what I have, and I will trust that the accumulation of those days will build something I cannot yet see. This is the discipline of enough, not the discipline of perfect, not the discipline of extraordinary. The discipline of enough. Enough reading, enough exercise, enough honest work, and enough time invested in the relationships that matter. Enough quiet reflection to keep your direction clear. Enough done every day becomes more than you can imagine. I have met people who were waiting to some significant before they considered themselves disciplined. They were waiting for the big project, the major commitment, the dramatic transformation. And while they waited for the significant thing, they neglected the small things. And the small things neglected became the reason the significant thing never arrived. Start where you are. Do what you can. Do it again tomorrow. The ant does not ask whether the grain it is carrying is important enough. It carries the grain, and the anthill rises. We have arrived at the center of everything I wanted to say to you today. This is the revelation, and I want you to hear it carefully. Most people believe that discipline is something you earn, that it is the result of accumulated victories, of successful streaks, of days when everything went right and the feeling was strong and the results were visible. They believe that discipline is built from the outside in, that you do the thing works, the results arrive, and the results give you the discipline to do the thing again. And that is true to a point. Results do reinforce behavior. Success does breed confidence. But here is what happens when the results stop coming, when the streak breaks, and when the effort continues and the harvest does not. When you are in winter and you are tired and you have nothing left. If your discipline depends on results, it will fail you in winter, ending every time. The revelation is this: discipline is not earned from results. It is declared before them. You do not wait to feel disciplined. You do not wait to see the harvest. You declare in advance that you are a person of discipline, and then you act from that declaration, not from the feeling, not from the evidence, not from the approval of anyone watching. You declare it privately before the day begins, before the test arrives. I am a person who does what I said I would do. I am a person who plants in winter. I am a person who does not negotiate with the alarm clock. I am a person who works on himself every single day, whether or not the world has noticed yet. This is not arrogance. This is not performance. This is the quiet, private act of deciding who you are before the circumstances try to decide for you. Because circumstances will always try to decide for you. The cold morning will try to make you a person who stays in bed. The discouraging result will try to make you a person who quits. The absence of recognition will try to make you a person who stops caring. And the only defense against all of it is a declaration made in advance. This is who I am. This is what I do. Then not because I feel like it, because I decided. Ding dang, that declaration, quiet at unheroic, made alone in the early morning before anyone is watching, is the foundation of every great life I have ever observed. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is not circumstances. It is a decision repeated daily, honored when it is hard, especially when it is hard. I want to talk to you about the tree, not the young sapling that bends easily in every breeze, though there is grace in that too. I want to talk about the old oak, the one that has stood through decades of storms, the one whose roots go down so deep that no wind has ever been able to find the bottom of them. And dang, that tree did not become an oak in a single season. It became an oak through the patient, relentless work of growing. A little each year, in every direction, being both upward toward the light and downward into the dark earth where no one could see. The roots are the part that matters, and roots grow in the dark, in the cold, in the seasons when nothing visible is happening. Your disciplines are your roots. The reading no one sees you doing. The early morning no one congratulates you for. The honest conversation you have with yourself in the quiet before the day begins. The commitment you keep when it would be so easy, so perfectly reasonable, to let it go. These are not glamorous things. Nobody takes photographs of roots. Nobody celebrates the underground work. But the storm does not care about photographs. When the storm comes, and it will come, it goes straight for the roots. And the person who has been building roots in the quiet seasons, that person bends in the storm. They feel it. They are moved by it. They may even be frightened by it. But they do not break because the roots hold. I want you to think about the storms that have already come in your life. The ones you survived. The ones that felt while you were inside them like they might be the end of everything. And yet here you are. Here you are, still watching, still seeking, still asking whether your effort is compounding into something real. That you are still asking that question is itself evidence of roots. Denning, the person who has no roots does not ask that question. They stopped asking long ago. They found an easier path and they took it, and they are comfortable and they are quietly diminishing. And you are still here. That matters. Build the roots every day a little deeper. Not for the fair days. The fair days take care of themselves. Build them for the storm. Because the storm is coming, and when it does, you will be grateful, deeply, profoundly grateful for every quiet morning you chose discipline over comfort. I want to close with something personal. I have spent my life studying this question. Why do some people build lives of meaning and others do not? And not lives of wealth alone? Wealth without meaning is a hollow thing. Lives of genuine purpose. Lives where, at the end, the person can look back and say, I became who I was capable of becoming. I did not waste what I was given. And after all of that study, all of those years, and all of those conversations with people at every point on the spectrum of achievement and failure, here is what I have found. The difference is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not the family you were born into or the opportunities that were handed to you or the circumstances that surrounded you. The difference is what you do on the ordinary days, not the extraordinary days, not the days when everything lines up and the feeling is strong and the results are visible. The ordinary days, the Tuesday mornings when nothing is special, the Thursday evenings when you are tired and the work is waiting, the Saturday afternoons when comfort is calling and the easy path is right there. What you do on those days, though those unremarkable and witnessed undramatic days, is what you are building your life out of. because life is mostly made of ordinary days. And the person who treats ordinary days as an opportunity is building something extraordinary. You are designing your life right now. Not someday, not when conditions improve. Ending on right now with the choices you make today on this ordinary day. With whatever energy you have left, if you have nothing left, if you are running on empty and the tank feels dry. I am not asking you for your best day. I am asking you for one thing. One seed, one page, one honest hour, one decision made in advance and honored in the moment. Because one seed planted in faith is still a seed, and the sower who plants one seed on the hardest day of his life is still a sower. And the harvest does not ask how you felt when you planted. It only asks whether you did. You have decided. Perhaps you decided before you ever found this message. Perhaps you are deciding right now, in this moment, for the first time. Either way, welcome. The discipline is not a feeling, and it is a decision. And you have already made it. Now go plant something. If you have stayed with me this far, through the parable of the sower, through the law of averages, through the revelation about declaring discipline before the feeling arrives, then you are not an average viewer. You are someone who is genuinely building something, and you deserve content that matches that seriousness. Subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here every week. We do not offer quick fixes. We do not offer empty motivation that evaporates by noon. We offer philosophy, the kind that takes root quietly and changes the way you see everything. The next message is already waiting for you. And if this one mattered, that one will too. You came here today carrying a question. Is any of this working? Ending. And I hope you leave carrying an answer. It is working if you are planting. The discipline was never a feeling. It was always a decision. And you just made it again. Thanks for watching. The end screen has more videos in the same world. Pick whichever video calls to you on the end screen. The work continues there.